Okay, so we're at the mercy of staff, so just whenever you guys are ready, you cue me in.
Ready.
Okay, you ready? Good evening. We're going to call the Town of Mangonia Park General Utility Fund Budget Workshop in this session. Roll call, please.
Mayor Alberry.
Here.
Councilmember Davis Quince.
Here.
And Councilmember McConnell.
Here. Thank you so much. And for the record, we do have a quorum. So at this time, we are going to be reviewing the fiscal year 2023-2024 proposed budget. And we'll turn the floor now over to our town manager and administration.
Mayor and Council, good evening. I'll try to be brief this evening, but I do have some information for you, some updates since our last workshop, which was June 13th. Since we are live streaming tonight, I'm just going to ask everyone to be sure, if you could, to speak into your microphones. We still get complaints that they can't hear because council member and some staff are not speaking into their microphones. So just, we'll put that out there. So what I have for you tonight, I've got 3 packets, and the clerk is passing out some other information that we will need the next time we have a one-on-one. If you could bring this with you. This is information in regard to our millage rate, which we will be talking about at our next council meeting. So next time we have a one-on-one, if you'll bring this with you, or if not, I'll have my copy. We can make copies. So just to jump into this, what I'd like for everyone to do is take this packet that says budget proposal, and what I have attempted to do in this is just kind of give everyone a summary. We've got the worksheets also, but I wanted to give everyone a summary on where we're at with this. So yeah, on this first page where it says Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, please see the attached upcoming fiscal year 23-24 budget. Talking about the millage rate. So just a little background on the millage rate. Of course, that's your property taxes and what you pay there. Our millage rate is basically maxed out. Now, last year, we talked about lowering that, but then in the end, we just got to the point we figured that we couldn't afford to do that. So our millage rate, Sherry, if I get this wrong, correct me. I've got it 9.95 mils.
9.9.
9.90, correction. So that is our millage rate. And again, at next Tuesday's town council meeting, we'll have council adopt a millage rate. And the reason we do that is the property appraiser and the tax collector want to see that as we proceed with the budget. Property value increase, and we've talked about this a little bit in one-on-ones. Mangonia Park had a pretty significant increase in property values, 24%. Out of 39 municipalities, we rank 5th in increase. So that's good and bad. That gives more funding for us to do things with, things that council has requested and the citizens to request. The bad news on that is, at the current millage rate, your property taxes will increase. Even if we keep the same millage rate, you'll be paying more. And I'm sure you understand that already. Over on the next page, where it says utility rates. So last year, we did not increase utility rates. In previous years, we had taken the position to increase utility rates 1% each year, and that's on water and sewer, on the base rate and the consumption or the usage. Last year we didn't do that. We left everything alone, tried to give everyone a little bit of break from the inflation that was happening. And this year, the recommendation is that we go back to that because we have to keep up on our end with increasing cost. So the recommendation would be to go back up 1% base and usage on the water. Now on the sewer, I think we all know that we're in conversations with Riviera Beach on that, but what we can expect probably at a minimum, and this is how we've budgeted this year, is at $6.31 for the, per 1,000 gallons for the upcoming year. Now, typically what we do on the rate that we get charged from Riviera Beach, we've been putting 2% on that. That helps us maintain the system, the lines, the lift stations, everything connected to the sewer system. This year, the recommendation would be 1%, and that would put the customer at a rate of $6.38 per 1,000 gallons. So we have to have that little bit of buffer just to maintain our system. And moving forward on the sewer rate, we don't know what it's going to be in the future. Obviously, if that's lower or higher, we come back and make adjustments to the budget. On the general fund, we talked about the property value increase already, and what that means to our budget at the current millage rate, and this is pretty conservative, and the clerk came in my office this afternoon and said that it would be even more than what we've got listed on the worksheet. A conservative estimation would be that this gives the town, at the same millage rate, an additional $200,000 of revenue in the general fund on property taxes. So for the sake of being conservative and very safe in our estimation, what we've done is all these state-funded revenues or state-allocated revenues, we've reduced those. We don't have those numbers yet. Sometime in late July, they'll send those, or they'll post those to their website. Things like the local option fuel tax, the local communications service tax, revenue share, municipal revenue sharing. But what we've done in the meantime, we've put those less than what we have at the current year. So we're trying to be very conservative there in our projections on revenue. So now going back to the millage, the ad valorem taxes, if you will, we have to budget 95%, at least 95% of what we're going to be getting in. And what I have on the worksheet tonight is about 2.8 million, and that is actually going to be too low. That's going to fall beneath that 95%. So next time we get together, you might see that adjusted, probably closer to the 3 million area, but it is at 2.8 for tonight. But that is going to be a little bit too low moving forward. I've been rambling on. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay. So looking at the expenditures, the bottom of this page where it says legislative, of course, that's the department that funds all activities for the town council. As we've discussed previously, your salaries, if approved by council, would go from $1,400 monthly to $1,500 monthly. So that's been projected in this year's budget. At our last workshop, the mayor had requested that we insert a line item indicating senior citizen help or senior citizen property improvement, whatever we want to call it. We did add that. We didn't put any money into it because I think the idea would be that it would be based on donations or contributions or grants maybe. So there's no money in there, but we did add the line items. Okay, flipping over to the next page. Is everybody on the page where it says administrative?
Okay, so excuse me, you said that you guys have added in senior citizen help, so we can try to get the seniors' homes and stuff painted and different things they may need.
Yes, ma'am. We've added that line item.
Right. But
No money. No
money.
money currently. That would be based on contributions, donations, grants.
Oh yeah, much needed. Yes, a lot of seniors in need. Yep.
When we had that housing fair, they let us know that. So
That's great.
timing's good for it. Under administrative or administration, I guess I should say, this is the department, y'all know this, but just to go over it, this is the department that covers salaries and benefits, materials, supplies, equipment for the admin department, along with consultant fees for legal and planning. And most of the IT contract is handled under contracted services under admin. Now, we're going to have to split that out a little bit this year, but currently 75–80% of what our IT person makes is in the admin department. Okay? So looking at salaries, first of all, the town manager's salary, this is just a placeholder for budgeting purposes, was put at 3%. Council has the ability to not give any raise, give a raise, 1, 2, 3, whatever council decides. And so the manager works at the pleasure of the council. But for budgeting purpose, we did put that at 3%. And your manager's not offended with anything that goes on. He feels very lucky to have the salary, so no problem there. $35,000 has been added to the salary line item for a full-time administrative assistant. Now, this is an approved position. It has just not been funded in the last 3 years. So what we had a full-time administrative assistant who received a promotion to deputy clerk. So we still have an approved position for administrative assistant. It hasn't been funded. We're asking this year that that be funded. We just feel like the workload is such that we do need that position. $20,000 has been added to salaries to represent a 5% increase for the clerk, 2 deputy clerks, the bookkeeper, and the code enforcement officer. Again, this is under administration, and there are other departments that carry salaries, but for administration, that's the recommendation. And when you increase salary, you also have to increase benefits. Social Security, all that, retirement, everything that goes with the salary has to be increased also. So we've done that as well. Health insurance, for budgeting purposes, and we'll find this out probably September, October? September, we'll find out what it's going up to. We've budgeted a 20% increase. Sherry tells me typically that's somewhere between 10 and 25%. We pretty much always get an increase, and that's just the fact of life. We've put that at 20% just to go through this exercise. All right. Legal fees. This is a little bit different. In previous years, we had an arrangement with the attorney where it was a flat fee of $4,800. I'm sorry, as you were, $4,000 monthly. $4,000 monthly. Okay. This past year, he requested an increase to $6,000 monthly, and that just didn't feel right, so we compromised on the idea of going back to an hourly rate, which I think we're going to finish up the year under the $6,000 per month. 6,000 times 12 is 72,000. We'll finish under 72,000, but we will finish above the 48,000 that we budgeted. So this has not been discussed with him. I want to discuss this with council first. He did indicate a couple of months ago that that hourly rate would go from $180 to $190 if we chose to do the hourly rate. I think our proposal or our response to that would be that we could go up to $5,400. That splits the difference between the $4,000 that we were paying and the $6,000 that he was looking for. So
what is the current hourly rate?
$180. That's for just regular Attorney's fees, arbitration or litigation is $190 per hour.
All right, and what's the what are they asking in terms of their proposed hourly rate adjusted?
To go to 190 and 200. 190 for just the regular and 200 for litigation.
Excuse me,
Yes, ma'am.
if he's finished speaking.
No, go right ahead, I'm calculating here, so.
I know everybody deserves a raise. What would they be doing different that we would give them this raise?
They would be providing the same service that they always have. I think if Keith or Mitty were here, they would say that that we have a lower rate than what they charge their other municipal clients, and that we budget less than those municipal towns. And I know that's
because we're smaller, correct? Probably.
Well, I'll say this, Palm Beach Shores is one of their clients, and I think they're over 100,000 a year. So we don't have a lot of the same issues that they do. But we do have a lot of development, you know, and honestly, we try to keep the conversations with legal at an absolute minimum. We cringe anytime we have to call, and we know as everyone says, the meter's running. So, but it would be the same service, just at a higher rate.
Oh, okay, I just wanted to know.
No. Okay. Anything else? McConnell?
It's just, I mean, everything's going up. So I'm sure, you know, things go up for them too. So the cost of doing business is probably where that comes in. And so you're looking at, what, 1,600?
For
That's gonna go up.
not their monthly rate, and I said split the difference, it would actually, the 54 would be higher than splitting the difference between 4,000 and 6,000. Splitting the difference would be 5,000 monthly. We can either go back to a flat rate monthly, which this time last year he was asking for 6,000 monthly, or we can go to an hourly fee, and what he has hinted around at is $190 per hour. We've done it both ways now. There's advantages to both. I can tell you very transparent, like we're going to exceed the 48,000 that we budgeted for this year. So, and he's certainly willing to come in and have a discussion with council in a workshop if need be. So.
Now, if memory serves me, in fact, I'll just ask the question so I don't misquote anything. When we had the flat rate the year prior to this year, what was that flat rate? It was 4,000 a month?
4,000 a month.
Okay, so we're at 48. Okay, and that was sort of rebuffed in this past negotiation in that they wanted something, I'm sorry, make sure that we can, well, something a little different. Give me just a moment to clear my stuff. Let the record reflect that Councilwoman Webb has joined the dais and Vice Mayor Johnson is on her way here to join the dais. So with that, just going back, so at that 48 is what we budgeted before. And if we were to budget right now, it was asking, and what was he asking in terms of a flat rate?
This time last year, he was asking 6,000. He hasn't brought up the flat rate so far this year.
That would have been 72,000 a year.
Correct.
I think what we did offer, I think, last time and was, I think it was 60. So we did agree to go up from the 48, which was I thought was an appreciable difference of $12,000 a year to go to 60. Where we're going to be ending up just based on what we're doing right now is about 65, which of course is way over our budget in terms of what we budgeted for the previous year.
Correct.
That being considered in terms of what we've actually spending and what we would like to see happen. Right now, we're talking, just for conversation purpose, 3 and 5%, you know, as it relates to staff and such. One of the things we have to consider is that while a very appropriate comment by Councilman McConnell is that everything is going up, including our cost. Right, so we can't budget in the absence of understanding that our health insurance is going up, proposed salaries are going up, other benefits are going up, and so we're not getting money and not spending more money as well. So there's a lot I can say, but I'll just simply say this, that in terms of what they're asking, and that would be about 72,000 a year. That's at 6,000 a month. We had negotiated 48 the previous year. To take that sort of quantum leap, which would be about, what's that, 24,000 over a year. I would say that, I readily understand that they have additional cost as well, but we're going to end up at about 65 right now.
Hopefully not that much.
Yeah, hopefully not.
I mean,
Hopefully not. We have to be more judicious. But at the rate that we're currently spending, we end up at about 65.
60, 65.
Understanding that, that there's additional things, I would say that we offer a flat rate of 65. When we did that before, we also stated that what we'd like to see happen is that so many of those code revisions be included in that flat rate amount. I'm not sure did that happen? I'm not sure. In the flat rate the previous year. Okay.
Not that I recall. No, sir.
Okay. All righty. That would just be, and of course, this is a budget workshop, and other councilmen is free to state their positions and so forth, but.
And Mayor, if I could, for the, that just came in, you have a packet, and we're on a page that indicates administrative, and we're talking about legal fees.
Thank you.
Okay. Buddy, so that would be my proposal, 65. We've gone up now in a 2-year span from 48 flat to 60, what's it, 65 flat? Right, to include, and I think what we talked about before was at least 4 code revisions, 3 or 4.
3 to
Right.
5.
So the 65, and that is to include a flat rate and to include those 4 or 5 revisions, and we can discuss that. And just go to the flat rate. That way we don't get beyond, we don't over budget, you know, in the coming year. That would just be my proposal as it relates to that line item. I don't know if others have comment as well.
I agree with you, Mayor.
Okay.
Unless you guys just want me to do all the legal work.
What line item are you on?
That was for 310, which would be page 2 of your of your budget document. Attorney fees and administration.
Oh,
Right, you'll notice currently we're at 52,000. We had a flat rate. I'm sorry, we're currently under an hourly. The previous year we had, and this is just information for Councilwoman Davis, Quince Davis, and that we had a 48,000 a year flat rate, and then we went back to an hourly billing. And based upon the hourly billing for this fiscal year, we are currently at $52,060.
That's right.
When you divide that by this is a 10-year budget we have right now, expenditures.
Yes, sir.
Account for
This
10
is
years.
up to date.
Okay, so this would mean that we'd be right at around 65-ish if we continue current spending. We'd be around 65, and so when you consider that we were at 48 to begin with the flat rate, we're now, as the hourly rate is 65, let's just lock it where we are in terms of the hourly. We can perhaps go lower than we can continue with the hourly, but they're asking for a $10 an hour adjustment if we stay with the hourly rate. And I haven't calculated that out to see what that would be based upon our current spending, but it would be way more than $75,000.
Yeah, so typically, we're going to be between 30 and 35 hours monthly. So I haven't done the math on that, but.
Okay. Yeah, so that would be it, and let's kind of focus on this coming fiscal year, see where we are. And if other things happen, like we've said, with staff and everything else, when things happen and our income streams improve and we have additional income, then yes, let's do what we can for everybody else. And if we get beyond this year and additional things have come online, development and such, and we're able to adjust it so that it's a win-win for everybody, you know, then let's do that. But at least for this year, let's kind of, my recommendation, let's just kind of do it the best we can.
Absolutely.
For all concerned, but at the same time, not, do too much and then we regret it because things have stopped in terms of our revenue streams. Okay, other comments? Okay.
I agree with your recommendation.
All right.
Okay. And again, this is just a recommendation that would have to be agreeable to all parties. So, okay, just as we're budgeting. All righty, if there's no other questions. Okay, Ken?
And, sir, that is a segue into our IT department, who's requesting an increase. And so I'll give you a little background. Our IT needs have gone through the roof. I mean, everything is based on technology these days, and we have more equipment to maintain. I think from the time that Pastor Cato started with the town, we've added an additional server. He is, in his letter to me, which I'll provide a copy, I didn't for tonight, but in his letter to me, he starts off by saying, in essence, he is a full-time employee of the town. And he also indicates that he's lost a client because he's spent so much time dealing with our stuff. And he doesn't say that begrudgingly. He's just, and he really enjoys working for the town. But to the councilman's point about costs going up, he's feeling that brunt as well. So for the town, he's making $2,000 monthly, and for the budget in this exercise, we put it at $3,000 monthly. And he is working a lot, and he does greatly cares to keep the town from being hacked, being hijacked, and all that good stuff. And he's as responsive as any IT team or company that you can find. He's always available to us, which in our situation is quite often. So that's what this budget reflects, a $1,000 per month increase.
Excuse me, what number are you?
I'm sorry. Well, I'm still on the narrative, but as far as your worksheet, that would be page 3 of the larger spreadsheet, and that would be account 340, contracted services. And that is on page 3 in the general fund.
Okay, so we budgeted 40,000 last year. And this is just, as we talk, it's not an affront or offense or anything else to anybody.
And I might add, the 40,000 is not all his. His comes out of that.
Okay, righty, and so roughly out of that 40, I think about 35.
So out of this fund, he gets $1,600 monthly. We take $400 from the utility fund. He gets a total of $2,000 monthly, $1,600 from the line item we're referring to now.
Okay. All righty, and I fully understand what he does and appreciate what happens. I guess and this is just conversation. For instance, just use our IT person. They work 8 to 5 and then they go home. So they're not up at 9, 10, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And right, so one, and if he was present, I would ask what would be the reason for it, and not offensively or anything else. We fully understand dedication. Some people are just dedicated, but is it a 24-hour monitoring that takes place? And
It does. And he would say to your question that he really cannot take on additional clients because we're We're not the largest, but we are the largest in as far as volume goes. He's actually lost a client because he could not maintain a schedule with them due to our needs.
Okay. Righty. Well, let me just do this. And perhaps we can have a meeting offline with them and just kind of get the fullness of what's happening and.
Certainly.
Okay.
And the other thing I wanted to talk about as far as administration is concerned is so let me find this line item. That would be under, well, line item, or the account number is 319 under administration, professional services. So out of that, we have the lobbyist position. That's $48,000 per year. Currently, $33,000 is paid out of the general fund and $15,000 is paid out of utilities. This budget, to keep it simple, I put all of that into the general fund. The remaining $75,000 that you're seeing there, that is for the town to do an impact fee study, which the town hasn't increased impact fees since 2009. And if the attorney were here, she would say this is something we really need to do, especially if and when the highlight is sold and developed. We would be leaving a lot of money on the table by not doing increase to our impact fees. Now, what the state requires in order for us to do that, if we anticipate that we're going to raise impact fees by more than 25%, which I anticipate we would, then we have to have a professional study conducted. That study is conducted, it's adopted by town council, it is sent to the state, I forget which department. The state approves that, and once they approve it, 1 year after that, it can go into effect. So this, in a very naive way, I did put $20,000 in this current year's budget for it. It's not going to cover that. The one proposal and you don't find many people that can do this. Our planner flat out said this is something that she doesn't do, her firm doesn't do, and that not many firms do this. The one firm that the county used and that Palm Beach Gardens used, I contacted them, their fee was $72,000. So obviously it didn't happen this year. So moving forward, I think we can look at the 75. But that's something that I would encourage us to seriously consider.
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you including the impact fees for that lake over here in Tiffany? Well, it's not Tiffany Lakes anymore, but I know they need to go up at least 100 on those impact fees. It's been 200 for
Yeah, this
way
would
too
be
long.
townwide.
Okay.
On every development project.
Okay, great.
But again, in order for it to be in effect,
Gotta
it's
get
something
on
we have to have conducted. You're probably looking at a 4 to 6 month process on that. We adopt it, send it to the state. That's probably another 60 days before they review it and approve it. And then once they approve it, it can't go into effect until 12 months later. So that's the urgency in what we're doing. And it was urgent when we were talking last year. I just way under budgeted that.
So the stuff that we have coming up, it wouldn't affect that anyway.
No, once you've submitted an application, then you're under the current rate. But looking at the highlight property again, maybe it'll be in time for that.
Okay. No, just again, before you move from there,
Yes, sir.
if you would just sort of a rehash of the impact fees. Now, I know that what we're looking at, we do, and it's always great to know what the financial impact is going to be, so that we can budget appropriately. But if we're spending $75,000 primarily to know and understand what the potential impact would be with the development of the High Line, my question would be, do we want to put the cart before the horse, or because we don't know when that'll be developed?
Right. So I'm going to ask Sherry, what did we get from the, just give some perspective, what did we get impact fees for Enclave? Was that 300 to 400,000?
I'm sorry, I don't remember.
I'm
because
sorry, and I
there
put you
were,
on the spot.
Impact fees for water, sewer.
Aside from that,
Right. I don't know.
I'm going to take a guess it was in the 300 to 400 range.
Yeah, so,
3 to 400,000, correct.
and remember with the sewer, I'm sorry,
Now, yeah, aside the sewer,
that aside, and
all that aside.
Yeah, I think you're right about the 300,000, because I remember they came in here, they was wanting that reduced.
That's
Right,
right.
they wanted to reduce the roads by $90,000.
Yeah.
And we couldn't do it for the town. Plus, we got 3.4% of the county's impact fee. But I don't recall what that was.
I know the county got $1 million.
yeah, we always send them
The county did.
96% to them.
I can cover most of it.
So basically, we need to have the impact fees done
They get their,
as soon as possible so that we can be collecting on future.
Correct.
And my opinion, pardon me, Mary, but the cart before the horse, if we've got to wait a whole year before we could even act on a raise of the impact fees, that means that those horses are already gone.
Yeah, so we're,
We need to go ahead and get that cart and horse on track.
so, yeah, you can figure on at least 18 months. If we decided tonight that we're going to do it, and the money just floated out of the sky to do it, 18 months, most likely, before we can actually start charging them.
Right.
Correct. Right, in terms of the 75,000, of course, then council has to determine whether you want to do that, and for discussion tonight, definitely you just kind of leave it there as a placeholder. But the impact study is basically going to let us know that if this particular project or whatever happens, here's what we can anticipate in terms of a revenue. Right, so it just lets us know. However, what we already have built, what is our fee assessed, 3? Is it 3? Our structure
It
itself?
varies because remember, the impact fee study, you were not collecting at all until Lee arrived as manager, and we were only paying the county and getting 2% of that. So now with your impact fees, in chapter 19.5 is the original impact fee study for roads. However, chapter 11 contradicts
Yeah. So we take the
19,
higher.
or vice versa. One of them contradicts, but we take the higher road. That's what we did with Meritage. And for instance, Tech Marine just got approval for final site plan, and their impact fees were as little as $1,400 for an entire brand new construction project. So if your impact fee study had been done over a year ago, and we're into our 18th month now, along with other projects, you would have been able to earn that money back. I mean, I don't know anything about the impact fee study, but I do know that we don't collect nowhere near as much as other municipalities for impact fees.
Right.
And this one across the street was 16,000-ish.
Right.
Maybe,
Impact
yeah.
fees.
Right, that's understood. But now, I'm trying to remember that when we actually imposed that or implemented the impact fees, we had a percentage. Do we remember what that percentage was?
It's not based on a percentage. The percentage comes from the county. That's what you were collecting. The impact
no.
fee is based more on the amount of the square footage of the building.
Mhm.
So there's a set fee based upon what the zoning is and the use. For
So,
instance, if
like-
you opened up an office building, you're going to collect more impact fees than you would if you did a residence or an industrial warehouse. You wouldn't collect as much.
Correct.
Enclave was X amount per unit,
Correct.
and X amount per unit for recreation, X amount per unit for
Lot.
transportation, X amount for
Public buildings.
public buildings. So,
Right, but we don't use an arbitrary number. So what I'm trying to
Right.
get to is, what is that number we use for transportation? Is it 3%, 4%? What is that number we
There
use?
is no percentage.
There has to be some type of formula
It
that
is
we
a
use to
formula, but it's
calculate.
not based on percentage.
Okay. So if we were to look at per unit, what we collected, we could break it down and determine, here's what that percentage was. And I know it's going to vary. I hear what's being said, but it's going to vary from project to project. That's understood. But at least if we have some baseline, let's just say in the absence of actually having, because we don't have this right now, right? And we anticipate a project, and we are anticipating a project, hopefully we'll put shovels in the ground this year. So we would hope to know that, what would it be? And if we were to do a study now, it probably wouldn't be in time right now because we have an application already on the record and everything else. So we're gonna, and true enough, as both you and the clerk have stated, we're gonna be missing dollars because we don't know, right? But in the absence of the fee study, we do have impact fees that we collect ourselves,
Correct.
right? And so we're gonna calculate that. Again, the 75,000, if the council determines that, yeah, we wanna just have it just in case, so 18 months from now, 2 years from now, we'll have it. Okay, great.
Here, never mind, can I just give you an example of what's on code? So for residential, using the, Enclave as an example, the Meritage Group, I think they paid $157 per unit for traffic. And then, if you were a warehouse, it would only be $119 per 1,000 square feet of space. So for instance, if you're doing, only like 4808 Australian Avenue is only doing, what, 2,000 and something square feet, if that.
Yeah.
They're only paying $119 per 1,000 square feet, so
Okay.
that's only $238 that you would be getting from Bdgt Marine. You're not getting enough in impact fee.
Yeah,
And
well,
you can't determine your own impact fee, the study has to determine it. But for public buildings for Meritage, they were paying $524 on top of the first figure I just gave you per unit. They had 160 units times $524. So the smaller square footage, 1,485 square foot unit costed you, let's just say, 6,000, 7,000. And the 1,800 square foot unit cost you maybe 9,000 or something, total impact fees for just the town or the county, I can't remember, I think the town. So that's where you collected a lot of your impact fees from Meritage because you had so many townhomes, 2 different sizes. They're the same number of bedrooms, they don't count that, but when you look at your impact fee schedule, it's, I can't remember what year it's from. I think it was when we
2009.
first came. 2003?
9.
Oh, 9, okay.
okay, alrighty.
So it's based upon public buildings, parks and recreation, and transportation, which is roads. But chapter 19 gives a higher rate for roads. So, and then of course you have your building permit fee.
Right.
And your building permit fee is being fought by the state. I think there's something in their legislative packet where the state does not want, the contractors are battling and begging with the state to not make cities and towns and villages collect building permit fees. Well, if you take the SROA warehouse, the warehouse that's being built over here, with your current rate for building on a $10 million building, they're only going to pay $61,000 in building permit fees for a 100,000 square foot warehouse. But if your impact fee study was already done, then that's where you would collect most of your money, plus what the county charges. But when you have self-storage facilities, they don't pay as much as residents or office buildings. Most of your districts are industrial, and industrial is just a warehouse space, and they pay the lowest fee.
Okay,
If that makes any sense.
well, certainly. So in 20 seconds, I'll just sort of, so if we had a 2,000, if we were reimbursed 157 for traffic for a 2,000 square foot over at Meritage, then we can determine that was 7.8% that we got on that unit. Right, and again, I'm not arguing against it, I'm just saying in the absence of it, we're still able to calculate internally so that we know what we did. And let's just say that another builder came in and said, I want to do this. What is your impact fee? Well, for traffic, it's 7.8% based upon a 2,000 square, or we can always adjust the numbers. Right, well, we don't say we won't hold them, they can't hold us to it, but basically that's what it is. We're just going to be codifying it when we do this $70,000 study. Is my point, so.
Right, and to that point, and to all of this, I think that study is only mandatory if you're gonna raise your impact fees you anticipate you're gonna raise it by more than 25%. I personally think we will be because of the length of time that it's been. But, you know, that's another discussion for council,
Oh,
certainly.
certainly. And when we get to the end of the budget, you're gonna tell us how we're gonna pay for it. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Next.
We're gonna pay $61,000 out of the building permit fees that Sherry just, so that's 61 of it.
Okay, well, good, 9 more to go. Okay.
Business.
All right, now, that's the highlights of administration. If you flip over, there's one that says Police Department PBSO contract. And this one's real simple. This budget's looking at a 44,900, might as well say $45,000 increase due to the 3% increase that we're getting this year. And that's a chunk, that is a big chunk. Probably could have been worse based on the new development, and we had been getting by for a few years, not paying any percentage, and then I think the year before it was 1%, so we've done well over the years, but I think this year it just caught up to us, and that is a big chunk of an increase.
Right, so we've landed on 3%, it's what we've gotten from them?
Right, when the major was here
Huh.
a couple of months ago, he had indicated that and talked about it would not be negotiable this year. It was just something, everyone was gonna get an increase.
Seems like that's just the way things are.
Mayor has a magic wand.
Everybody gets a,
All of
Everybody
the
gets
pixie
a
dust have gone off of it.
Pixie dust.
Well, still a little, I have to reserve the what's left for for the bigger projects. No, they've been kind to us, and, yeah, it comes a point.
We have to go ahead and bite the bullet.
Yeah, we just gotta make sure we have the money to do it. And if not, then we'll go back begging and groveling.
Can I spend that 61,000 again?
We're getting ready
I'm gonna spend it a few times tonight.
we're getting ready to, so.
That sounds like more magic wand work there.
Yep, More magic wand, and then the department, right after that's the fire department. So I've had 2 one-on-ones, Mr. McConnell and Ms. Davis Quince. We've talked about this one-on-one. I think before next Tuesday's meeting, the fire chief will be here to field your questions about where they're going with our agreement. And I do desire a one-on-one with everyone prior to Tuesday night. I mean, I've had with both of you. So as it stands right now, their agreement is going to call for 5% each year for the length of the agreement, which would be for 5 years. So 5% each year for 5 years.
Ooh. Are we currently out of contract with them?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they're negotiating 5% to start the new contract?
That's where they've started.
Okay. Now, according to the CPI, is it 1% or 2% or?
It varies.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know what
Yeah,
it is.
I don't know exactly, but
Yeah, because if it's going to be unknown what that's going to be going forward, let's just say we get into the 5-10-year agreement, we get into the second year of it, and we locked in at 5% every year, we may be hurting ourselves. Right, so we don't know what the cost is going to be going forward, but that 5%, every subsequent years throughout the remainder of the contract is, we need to talk about that one.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Because, they can always do a look back to determine exactly what that increase was or should have been. And I know that, I won't rehash all of that in terms of what happened for those years, and then all of a sudden we had to sort of backfill. But at the same time,
Yeah.
they do know, they have the information. Are we getting reports or anything from them?
we're not, and we've made our second request within the past month for those. So,
In negotiations, that's why they call them negotiations. One of the things I've said for years is that let's just go to an encounter rate, right? Do we know how often
Right.
they're in town?
So what they're saying is that 2% of their calls are related to Mangonia Park, either fire or EMS accident. So that's the formula they're using for the increase, 2% on their budget, of their budget.
And do we know what their budget number is for fire?
Not off the top of my head, but I'll
Yeah,
find
we
that
can-
out.
we can
They've
see.
sent that. They've
Okay.
sent some stats in the past. We did get reports for 20 and for 21. Haven't had anything since, so.
Okay. I think what would help us, and at least would help me, if we were to go online, because all budgets are out there, perhaps on their website, and pull down their budget for this fiscal year to see exactly what we're looking at now. You know, what was budgeted, what has been the expenditure this far within the fiscal year. Take a look at it, and then we calculate that 2% and see what we're paying for. Because if it's 2% and we're paying 5%, then we need to negotiate. Okay, so if we can get that information.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And again, I'll get that before the weekend, and the chief will be here Tuesday night.
Okay, yeah, if we can get that in.
And that will be a presentation. You will not have to vote on it that night. That'll just be a Q&A, which I think is overdue.
Okay, great. That'll at least allow us to have intelligent conversation with them. Because again, I'm one of those encounter rate persons. We don't know how often they're here.
Because we don't get reports.
Correct. So if they're showing up once a month, right, and you calculate how much we're paying, wow, is that $20,000 every time that they come, or $40,000 each time? Yeah. And they still do our fire, our permits and so forth, inspections. Okay. Okay, so yeah, we can get that information.
Will do. And we'll find out the current CPI.
Okay.
All right.
I think it's 9%. Current CPI,
9?
9%?
I think so. I'm on U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. I just need to confirm that it's,
We'll double check everything and
Okay.
let you know. Okay. So also under fire department is Public Works. So we've proposed to add a position. We talked about this at the workshop back in May, and we also touched on it at our last workshop. So that would be just in the salary if we added a full-time position. And that would be 42,000 salary, which is roughly 20-ish per hour. Okay? Now, for the current staff that's there, we had a lot of discussion last year about outside workers and that kind of thing. So what is included in this budget, in this presentation, the clerk and I had a long discussion about this today, and I thought it was very productive. We would offer up that same 5% that every full-time employee is going to get, every full-time, 5%, if approved. And for the current laborer that we have, one of them would get, on top of that, a pay adjustment of 3%. Okay? And then we would do, for the other position, which we anticipate that being a lead position, because we're going to have 3 workers in the field, lead position, or someone said foreman position, that position would get the 5% COLA, basically, that everyone else is getting, the 3% pay adjustment, and a 2% increase for being the lead position. And if you're doing hard numbers, that's about 1,000 more than the previous guy.
So that I'm clear, we're saying the salary adjustment plus a percentage after we've done the adjustment?
You're talking about the
For the lead-
5%?
For the lead person?
The lead person, we get the 5% across the board like everyone's getting. And then for the public works workers, 3%, similar to the other position, and then a 2% for being the lead person. So 10% altogether for that position.
And that ends up being 10%.
Correct, and, you know, this is kind of in the spirit of what we were talking about last year. Additional funds for outside workers or public works workers. So that's kind of a play on that, if you will. And of course, that's just a proposal, and that has been included. Yes, ma'am?
How compatible is that with the other municipalities that would be of similar nature?
Salary-wise, we're either at or just lower than the, I guess you would say, the average laborer position.
The present salary, you mean?
The current salary, yes, that's correct.
So then
We're
the
not
10
too far off.
Then the increase would make it,
Well, think about it this way. So the increase for the one position is 10%, but that's, you know, overall, that's
Roughly
maybe,
about 3,500 to
Yeah.
3,800 for the person that's taking the lead. They would, with the adjustments that you're referencing for the 3% salary adjustment and then the 2% increase, and plus the COLA is totally separate, which is 5. The total for that would be like $3,500 for that position. And then current one is
Just while the clerk is calculating, how many bodies do we have currently?
currently we have,
2?
the way that the budget reads is we have the 2, and then the utility director has served as the supervisor over that, but really 2 working positions, I would say. 2 laborer positions, correct. And again, this proposal would add a position at around 42,000 and increase the salaries for the other 2. One of those being the lead position.
Okay, and the 30-second justification for the 3rd position would be?
Just the workload, simply put. I think, quite honestly, I think council's expectations are more than what they have been. We have more recreational programs where maintenance has to get involved with some heavy lifting. We are doing more with utilities, so they have to kind of jump in with that too. We're just trying to keep a greener and cleaner town. And I'll say this way, we put a lot more emphasis on the park, keeping that a little bit more up to date. And no one's complaining about their workload. It's nothing like that, but I feel like it's needed.
And what line item is that?
What's
What
that?
line item is that?
That would be
Well, if you
Oh, I see,
have,
Public Works.
Public Works salaries.
if you have people that
Page 4.
want to do the work, you need to reward them a little bit, because let me tell you, I mean, I'm out there all the time, I'm a union member, all of our people are union, but we still get, I call them crybabies, because it's hot, and they don't wanna do this, they don't wanna do that.
Right.
And, you know, you live in Florida, and it's just like I tell my 2 grandsons, they're from Virginia. But I told them, I said, if you wanna work, if you gotta work out in the heat, you gotta get out in the heat. That's the only way, that's the only way you can do it, because if you go from an air-conditioned house to an air-conditioned car to an air-conditioned office, and you turn around and try to go out there,
Heat stroke.
you try to go out there and do the work out there, for 8 hours, you're not gonna make it. You won't make it.
and also you see on the reporting showing that all of the temperatures, May, June, and then also indicating July perspective is, you know, higher, 5 to 10 degrees higher than the usual.
That second position would be right at the starting position for the new position. And then the other one, so you'd be, your quote was 42.5.
Right. Ish, yeah.
So the
I think we
second
figured
position
one
would
at
come to that.
42, one would be 43, and maybe the lead position 44 and some change. So not a lot of difference between the three, but
So there is a,
Good.
the existing position would be a couple of dollars more than the proposed position, new position.
Right.
With your 5 and your 3% salary adjustment and 5% COLA.
Right. Okay.
I meant to say 10 degrees with the feel-like temperatures. Yeah, more than average.
Absolutely.
Okay, other questions on this item? Okay, Ken?
And of course, with, again, the salary line items dictate that your fringe or your benefit line items go up as well. And in addition to that, we have put in what we're guessing, hopefully no more than this, the 20% increase in health insurance cost, which again could be between 10 and 25%. And the proposal is for a new truck for Public Works. That's at $45,000. That's been included in the presentation.
Did we buy one this past fiscal year?
No, sir. We got the van and the admin vehicle.
Yeah, they need it. So do I. I need a Range Rover. And an electrical car.
Throw me one when you get it.
I'll drive.
Right, if you order a Range Rover, you're not gonna get it for a year.
Electrical.
I know where,
Hey,
I know where there's a
there you go.
nicely appointed 2003 Toyota Corolla that we can get for her.
Electrical.
Gifter?
It's outside.
If that were the case, I'd have to let code enforcement and recreation arm wrestle over that.
It's nice blue, it's outside.
I like it. Yeah.
Okay.
Great owner. Get him brownie points.
It's an antique.
All right, and in addition to Public Works, we talk about street repair. It's on that same page.
I
Just
couldn't wait till we get to
please.
that, cause I didn't see the speed bumps and the sidewalks.
I'm saying, please. Please. Street repair. What's needed?
So I'll go ahead and take that head on. The speed bumps, we haven't decided where. I don't know how to budget that yet. And the sidewalks, all that was gonna be included in the state appropriation that we did not get. Now, having said that, council has the ability to say what we put in, what we take out. But that's just, if we definitely want to do the speed bumps, we need to figure out where we're doing them, how many, and we're gonna have to heavily involve the sheriff's office with that, and to some degree, the fire department. So that's first thing on that. But in addition to that, at the workshop, council brought up the idea of some improvements on 45th and Australian. That's been included in here, and we have had conversations with the county. And to the extent of their conversations, it's like, hey, we support you. We think it would be great. We would be willing to go in with you to try to get some state funding, appropriation-wise, but they didn't offer up any money. So we support you.
But y'all.
So
They do understand these are their roads.
No,
that
they
has
don't.
been brought up to them, and they say yes, and we're going to get people to and from on those roads as safely as we can. And the beautification, and they are pretty consistent with this. The beautification projects typically are up to the municipalities, and sometimes municipalities are able to get DOT money to help out with that, so. It's,
We've actually gone down that road before. In fact, we were in Tallahassee trying to draw down some dollars to do that. But basically, when something is yours, whose responsibility is it to take care of it and beautify it?
right.
The owner. And I appreciate and love the county staff and such, but at the same time, that can't fall on the municipalities, to do that. Palm Beach Gardens I love their flyover on a PGA.
Beautiful.
We don't have that kind of budget, so we can't do it. But at the same time, there has to be something that can be done to beautify the medians. When we asked about just putting up our signs so that we can advertise, we couldn't do it, but we can take care of it. Right? It's a contradiction.
Right.
Take care of it, but don't put up your signs in the median. So I think probably just another, hey, we're trying to do this, and we actually need some funding. It can't be an unfunded agreement. Yeah, we agree with it, but we have no dollars. And before I finish, as I'm looking at signs, excuse me, and making mention of those, what I have seen in other municipalities, so that we can begin to locate our signs, in strategic places as we're advertising at festivals and everything else, along with both this Carter and the Australian Carter. I've seen in other cities where they've taken those poles and they've actually bolted them to the sidewalk. When FPL said no, I've seen them bolted on the sidewalk, at the very edge of the sidewalk, so people can still pass by, but that sign is visible in strategic locations. So let's look at doing that.
Okay.
If the county says, hey, go for things, because they said go for beautification and go for everything else, we can go for doing that. And I'm sure they support us, in doing that, so, okay.
They
Absolutely.
support you, no money.
That's just so.
Right, exactly. We're behind you,
Yeah.
all the way.
No, we're in front of you. But you
And I appreciate it.
Sounds more like they're just a cheering squad.
Cheerleader.
And nothing malicious, I appreciate them. I appreciate what they do.
Yeah, we appreciate what they're going to do. Right.
Even more.
And I don't
We're
want,
too,
go ahead.
we're too small for them to worry about us. Too small.
Okay. Okay.
Well, so to that, and I do tell them this too, in a very nice way, when the highlight is sold and the development's on the table, everyone's gonna want some input into that. So while we're small and, they don't have to pay attention to us, at that point, they're gonna be paying a lot of attention to us, so better to hear us now than to be
So-
shut down in the future.
Well, then we can turn around and tell them, say, hey, when we wanted your help,
Well,
You didn't get
that's the point.
we don't need your help now.
But if you beautify the area, it brings more, different developers want to come in. When you drive down these Australia and 45th Australia, you, as the lady says, you speed down, because what do you have to look at? I know if they could just, I don't know why they don't care, but it's just sad that this little town should be so beautiful. I was telling you about where my daughter is in the Appalachian Mountains.
Mhm.
It's like being in a movie. It's so beautiful if you ever get an opportunity to go. And it's not a huge place, but somebody cares. This road can be beautiful. Australia too. I don't know how we're gonna get it done, but I know if that High Line is being developed, they're gonna want these roads beautified. They don't want to drive in and look at this. How, it's not so bad, but it can be better. So whatever we gotta do to get it done, we need to get it done.
Well, so currently there is, in this budget, 75,000. So ultimately, y'all decide if we want to leave that in there, if we want to break off some of that and pursue speed bumps and sidewalks, or decorative street lights,
Yeah, it's
or,
all bad.
that could be part of it too. So,
And,
go ahead. I was just gonna say, I don't want to get too far away. I want to make sure Councilwoman Buchanan
Get us speed.
feels like that we've done the speed bump conversation with some justice. I didn't want her
Get her
to
speed
think we
bumps.
were
sidewalks.
jumping
much
away
needed.
from that.
And I hope we have some vision in place for streetscaping. Because if we can find some beautification in the roadway itself,
Mhm.
can draw attention to the streets. Can, you know. even
Can I
slow
share
people down.
something when she's finished?
Yes, Vice Mayor
It may
then.
even draw attention to the drivers as they come by and slow down and observe
Right.
the beautification in the streets, you know, with the
Oh,
really
I see what you're saying.
well represented, the Mangonia view in our streetscaping.
Okay. All right, Councilwoman Webb?
So I know you guys will probably have to have a engineer for everything that you do, right? So I went to visit somewhere up north, and you know who they use to do their beautification on their streets? Volunteers.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're actually landscapers that are incarcerated, or they were already incarcerated and they just found a passion into something, and they put them out there in the daytime. They draft them out and take their time. And I went back there the other day, and it was so pretty. At first, I'm like, what are they doing? So they had volunteers there, and they had the folks that were incarcerated that I think they needed to do hours or something. But they were all out there mixed together. First they cleaned it up, then they went out there and did whatever. And then like a year after I went back to visit, it's real pretty what they did.
That is great.
Didn't even pay $1.
That is great.
I know they probably had to buy the plants, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure how it was funded, but.
I know the streetscaping view has a lot of volunteer work included in that proposal, or at least that process.
So I know the town has previously used the prison labor for a couple of projects. Not so much since I've been here, in all honesty, but I know in years past they have. So we can pursue that and see exactly what we can get. My former job, we used to use them for a lot of painting and whatnot, so we'll take a look at that.
And I think you guys are still registered at the courthouse, 'cause that's how I found the town of Mangonia Park, you know?
That would be great if you can get those guys.
Yeah, I needed to do 1,000 hours for school, right, Sherry?
Oh, yeah, when you were a volunteer, but you weren't a
Shifting.
prisoner.
Let's make that perfectly clear.
Yeah, for the record, you are not a prisoner.
Yeah, I didn't want to just go any and anywhere. I wanted to go somewhere purposeful, somewhere where I was going to actually learn something. And then I remember my professor at the time said I needed to go to the courthouse and just look through a list of stuff that they had. And don't pick nothing hard, but just pick something. And I'm like, okay, what am I good at? And then that's how I was able to choose.
Hello.
Here, do you want some? You're the
Here's-
only one that didn't get it.
I've been snitching.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just,
Mayor.
Mr. Ken, excuse me, I know what she was talking about to, Felicia. If you can get the prisoners, because a lot of those guys are so gifted, you know, if you can work with them, I know they can clean up the town even. We have people that's cleaning up, but it's every day I call you, it's so much trash thrown out. It is ridiculous. I mean, and you jump right on it. If you can get those guys out, they make tags, they do everything. Some of them are so creative. They can beautify this town, just like she said. Whatever we need to do, whoever we need to contact to get this little town, I want this little town that when you ride through it, that you're like, have you been through the town of Mangonia Park? I promise you, once we get it done, you don't have to do it again. A man said, do it right the first time. You don't have to do it over again. So we can just get it right the first time. We won't have to do it over again, just have to maintain it. It can be done. This town's not that big. And they're making it so hard. I don't understand why the county making it so hard. Like, just fix the roads already.
That's what they do.
one of the things in terms of, have you ever noticed, like you can have just the smallest little house, right? And if there's all kind of stuff, and debris and high grass and faded paint and everything else, it just, And you take that same little house and you paint it, cut the grass and everything else, it's, oh, wow.
Wow.
They didn't do a whole lot to it, but now it looks a whole lot better. So we can take our streets in the absence of being able to get actual dollars at this point to rehab them and do other things. A suggestion would be, and I had been meaning to speak with about this, we can take our public work individuals, hopefully the rainy season is still with us. We go to Home Depot and grab some couple bags of Bahalia seeds, throw in the median, And that's the I-95 grass, I call it. It just kind of,
Right.
you can't kill it.
Yes.
Right, so, right, and throw in the medians, and then you keep them cut and clean. And it makes a world of a difference to do that. In addition to that, we take those poles that I just made mention of, because we have several of them right here, and we space them out so that the intent that we had, that somewhere down Australian as well, is there. So clean medians, and then those flag poles, so while we're waiting for dollars, let's do all that we can
Sure.
to beautify it
Absolutely.
until then, so.
And a lot of that free work, labor can come with those who are gifted in horticulture. Because there's a lot that can be done just minimally with horticulture that can make it look very attractive.
Oh, absolutely, I agree, you know, and even just from the standpoint, you know, that even if they're not a horticulturalist, throw those seeds out there, you know, and we can also consider, and maybe this is a suggestion, I don't know how the rest of the council feel, I'm just kind of thinking right now the juices are flowing, for that new truck, or one of the old trucks perhaps, we buy a water tank, and we mount to one of those older trucks, and that way, we go through and we water, you know,
Yeah.
those areas that need to be watered, so we keep it looking green.
Right.
Right. So that's that coat of paint on that ugly house,
Right.
if you will.
And take the shovel and go around the media.
You gotta
'Cause I
edge
look at
them,
the
you gotta
medians,
trim them,
they got grass growing all out the side, and
you gotta be
it's
trimmed.
terrible right here on 45th.
Edging,
Yeah,
Yes.
no, not edge. You're actually gonna have to take a shovel, because it's on the side, not the actual media. Like on the side of the media, is grass growing out the actual side on the road and the media where it meets. You would probably have to take some type of shovel and shovel all the way around to clean it up. If you go out here on 45th Street, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Right.
Because
And-
I sometimes look at it and be like, I just want to get out and take the shovel and push it myself.
Right, and to your point, Councilwoman Davis, the county used to have those trucks that would come out, the heavy bristle thing, and it just knocks it off. I don't know if they still have it, but at least if they can share in that amount to help keep them clean.
they do it about once a year. I mean, maybe they do it twice a year, but, I mean,
Yeah.
about once.
Yeah, if there's no liability issues, maybe we can borrow their truck, no, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
we can engage it for a period of time.
We'll do it,
I'm
so.
I'm not beneath asking, for
You
sure.
got the manpower, just give us the mobile power.
They
Because
can
it-
only say yes or no. That's how my
That's
dad
right.
taught me.
Right, and I said it in
Just don't
jest,
say
but,
yes or
you
no.
know, and at least from my standpoint, that if indeed we're gonna, implement and fund a new position, there are some expectations
Certainly.
that go along with that. We do keep those things looking clean and so forth, although it's not ours, it's our town.
It is
So
our
we gotta keep it looking clean. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, anything else?
I'll just
Okay.
say for the prison labor, we'll pursue that and see what we come up with, and I'll get back to you very soon. On the streetscape, that would be used to call that the MPO, they're now the TPA. It's a extension of county government, but they do offer grants for that type of stuff. I know you've been to a couple of those presentations, so you brought me back some info one
Yes,
time.
I mean, very attractive to be done.
All right.
Where would you like that to be implemented? Where would you like the streetscaping to start at? Like,
Well, I would
Okay.
definitely think somewhere around the North Shore area of 45th Street. And then if we could do some at the corner of 45th and Australia would be good. And I definitely would like to see at the beginning of the town
right,
on Australia.
yes. That would be great, and at the beginning of this area.
I don't know if
too.
we've got enough going on in the beginning of this area,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think the beginning of the town and on Australia would really help to get some attention on that.
There's a lot of stuff on
Yeah,
Australia.
I mean, we need to have it closer to a traffic light area
Mhm.
on 45th Street because we've got the curve in the road and then we've got the added traffic coming in and out of Unclean. I think we've got enough going on this end.
Yeah, they U-turn and everything,
Yeah,
yes.
they're doing U-turns a lot. I don't think we want to give them too much.
And perhaps we want to revisit as well, I know that at one point, the county, through DOT, was talking about doing, what do you call those little things that took traffic off earlier than getting to the interstate? Remember, there was a meeting where they, I forget what they call it, where they're taking and they're moving the traffic.
Oh, the
some-
flyovers?
But they were actually ground level, that they were taking and having exits or merging off some kind of way so that the traffic doesn't build
Oh,
up. Right. If we can revisit that, because
Sure.
I think at some point they were talking about at least improvement to, up to a certain point. I don't know if that was to Congress, but if that's still part of that plan that's afloat, then we tell them that we need to come a little further with it, you know, perhaps down to Australian. But we can
Okay.
revisit that.
I just want to say one thing, because I know we want to spend the night. Today I saw two, people about to collide, making that U-turn. One coming out of, South Place and the other one U-turning. Some kind of way the county, I've seen it more than once, needs to come out and pay attention. That when you make that right, when the lights green, they can make a U-turn at the same time. People are about to collide constantly.
It's the timing of the lights.
Time up, there you go. They need, I was about to say that. So they need to come back and revisit and sit down and see, hey, we probably need to let this light wait, you know, 5 seconds or something slower, because these people they're about to collide. I saw it today, I was like, oh my God, because they U-turn at the same time. So if you're going left
talking
into
about-
South Place, yes.
Yeah.
And you're coming right out of South Place, they're U-turning to go to Enclave. People, they continue to collide, they're about to collide every day. And I'm like, oh, wow, 'cause I watch it, but nobody's paying attention to that. I'm surprised they haven't had a lot of accidents right in that area with these U-turns happening.
I'll bring it up.
And then they're
And I
gonna
think,
add that storage, it's gonna get worse.
Ms. Webb had the traffic engineer for the county hemmed up pretty good at the Tallahassee
Oh, yes.
trip,
Way to go.
Palm Beach County Days. I'll
Way to
remind
go.
him.
Speaking of the attractions on this end of the town, we do have that storage building. It will be another attraction already on
Right.
this west side of town, so I think we'll be all right as far as that, but we're a little further east on 45th Street area.
Didn't he agree to do $1 million worth of beautification? No.
No, they
Would be
did,
nice.
they did say that,
They
you know,
did suggest
they want us
some
to,
things, yeah.
at the same time, you know, it's an ask, not a demand, and, you know, so we don't want to get in trouble demanding that they do it, but if they want to do something.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad they're doing the sign for Bryn Mawr, but, you know, we do.
For the town.
As long as we still can talk a little bit more into town-natured
Mhm.
signage or
Yeah.
something.
I would like the sign off to stretch all the way in Boardman, and Bryn Mawr.
Boardman, that little bit that starts like in front of Miss Green's house and
Not
No.
quite that far.
Mm.
You're saying like coming up the hill right there,
You
right?
said-
That's what I said.
They're
So-
gonna,
I'm
I think
sorry.
they're stopping at the stop sign.
You was like, I'm going north, I'm coming in.
Is that they're
She-
stopping at the
Coming in
fence
on the
line?
left,
confused.
that's what
Oh,
I seen on the
The
drawing.
fence line, that's.
Well, she was talking about their development. No, their obligation is going to take them not all the way where, up the hill, you know, because on South Place,
It's just gonna be.
yeah, that's,
Just
yeah.
the fence line as well.
yeah, that's beyond their property line,
Right.
across 45th and on up, so.
I don't know how to read the plan, but I did say, I think, to the stop sign, I'm not sure now.
Yeah, okay, so keep in mind,
We'll look at
the eastern section of it, they had proposed to do some things, there's some green space that's necessary and a
Oh,
few
yeah.
other things as well.
That's-
So they can only go so far, unfortunately. Yeah, I understand and I agree with you, but, yeah.
What I'm saying, I know we had suggested that they take it to their fence line. Now, if we need to look and see if, make sure that's part of their development of the sidewalk and so forth, that we want it on that side of their property. Because I know we suggested it, but I didn't check to make sure that's where they got the development.
So that sign is just gonna stop right at the beginning there. It's gonna be a small sign, sort of like the one at the town of Mangling Park.
No, it's actually going to be a larger sign,
Mhm.
that is the LED, you know, constant read sign, like they have at Riviera Beach City Hall. Yeah, so
Okay,
the
not at the
constant.
entrance of Boardman. That's, you're talking
No,
about. West Place.
initially, that's where we thought the best sight line was, but their engineers decided they're gonna do it, so we just move out of the way, since they're paying for it. It's gonna be at the west side now.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
Right,
That'd
it's
be
supposed to be
accidents
side.
for real if you set a sign right there. And be able to see how to get out.
Yeah, we may have to revisit it and see, so, okay.
He seemed to be pretty flexible
Yes,
Yes.
yes, very, very amenable. Yeah.
when you talked to him.
I agree with her on that. I'm gonna put a little pieces on, make it come up, make it look beautiful with the entrance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they're gonna have some beautiful things around it and all of that, and because they're gonna actually dedicate it
Landscape it.
to us. But we'll be able to tell them, please, U-turns, no U-turn, so we'll be able to make announcements from the town and so forth, just constantly flashing it. Yeah, but we'll look at the location of it.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. All right, last thing under street repair is that $190,000. That is for the Mangonia Hills neighborhood. It's currently in this year's budget. I think we're gonna run out of time, so it'll have to be rolled over into next year. And the holdup at this point is, and this will be on Tuesday night's agenda, I think I talked to, I know the two one-on-ones that I've had so far. We need to have a utility survey done. And what that is have our engineering firm conduct a survey and try to find as many pieces to the utility system as possible. Everybody knows, I think the mayor, and I know Van has said this, that utility system was put in the dead of night. And, you know, we're finding stuff every year that we didn't know that's not on our atlas. So the idea, I'm gonna ask council to approve for next Tuesday, is to have the survey team come in and locate as many pieces of the utility system as possible. So that's part of that. And the reason that ties into the paving, Van is insistent that before we pave Mangonia Hills, that we do the survey there, we start there, because he's convinced there's some things underground that are not identified on the atlas. So that's why this may be rolled, the 190,000 may be rolled into next year. It's in this year, may have to go to next year.
Excuse me, where would they put, if they did, like, they're gonna do at Brent Mawr, the sign, where would they put it on the hill section? Because they need identification over there also. What would you suggest?
Where would they put a neighborhood sign?
Yes, what would you suggest?
There's already one there.
No, not a neighborhood sign, there's
No
a
sign.
town sign that's just
Yeah, a little one, yeah.
Right.
at the north end of the city line, town line, right at the end of that gas station, north end of that gas station, but she's talking about for a hill section,
To identify it.
where would it be? We don't have any city space. Do we have enough city space on that corner? I know there's a fence that's there, and
Yeah.
nothing's going on in under that fence, behind that fence.
But grass.
But, I don't know, we'll have to make some
Yeah, we would have to look at that. I don't know.
That-
Maybe
that
the
needs to
mayor
be
would
ident-
offer his front yard as.
Sure.
Oh.
Absolutely, just
It
gotta
needs to be
put a detour
identified
sign to
also.
pass by and then come back. So. The only thing that could happen, of course, is that in the medians is where you normally find them. Right, our identifying sign is off to the right, and we got that for free, so. But again, you know, we can go to the county and say, thank you for supporting us, we just put it, we won't be putting it, we
Thank you
just
very
put it
much.
in the median, and, okay. Right, just two questions as it
Take a
relates
picture of
to, the item we were just discussing.
Yes, sir.
Now, if we were to roll it over into the next fiscal year, are we still within that grant allowable period? Because I think normally, we secured a grant, correct, for this amount?
No, this is
money we
your surtax money through the county.
Oh, okay. Surtax dollars. Okay. That goes into our general, so, okay, so we're good there. And there was something else, regarding, that you had made a statement regarding
Utility survey?
the survey. Right. Now, I remember some years back, we commissioned a study, and that, the import of that, and at least the purpose of that, was to identify all of those things. Henry Glass was our engineer at the time. Did we not achieve that, or so that we have something on record identifying all of those lines and where they are and such, or?
Oh, we did the gas, the smoke thing?
The Hinterland Group did that, and that was for the
Yeah.
purposes of course, trying to identify more those pipes that have been compromised, crushing and all of that, and so that they can run the fixer thing through it. But I think that study that we did with Henry Glass, probably
Didn't have
15 years
electrical
ago,
in it.
20 years ago.
It
What?
was in
Yeah, I don't think,
2009,
It
but
didn't have, it didn't have electrical.
I don't think they
Caltrans
found all
threw
that.
that out. Remember when we discussed it? I mean, they pulled whatever, extracted whatever
Yeah.
they could.
Yeah, they used some of that, especially for the water plant, I think
Right.
is what you're talking about.
Okay.
But I don't know that they were able to extract a lot of the sewer. It's like clean outs and stuff like
Okay,
that.
'cause if
But
I'm not mistaken, that's what we paid for.
Mm.
Okay, and that was the
Okay.
intent, at least, let me put it that way. Okay.
Okay, we'll definitely check.
Okay. Buddy, anything else? Okay.
Not on that, just jumping over to Parks and Rec real quick. Of course, the 5% increase is across the board for all full-time employees. That's been included in that. Also, the benefits reflect the salary increase. 20%, yada, yada, on the health insurance is in there. And another item that's being rolled over is $64,000 for the park to repave the parking lot and to do some fence work where needed. That's in this current year. It's probably going to get moved over to next year. And the idea behind that is if we're doing paving close by to the neighborhood, if we can leverage the same contractor and maybe save some mobilization money, that may be to our benefit. So van is on top of all of the things that we're talking about for paving. Okay? And that's it for the general fund. Utility fund is a lot more direct and brief, I think. Utility fund, we talked about the revenue part of it. If we go up to 1% on the water, that's only going to give us about 34, and it looks like this, 3,400. We do have the $1 million through ARPA. That right now we're looking at the ground storage tank. That's going to be about $600,000 to $700,000 that we're going to have to use that for, and also the valve project, the valve installation project. So that's probably going to take up the majority of that $1 million. And we do have the funding, I think the mayor was talking about, we do have the funding through the state to do the septic to sewer, which we're going to get off the ground before the end of the calendar year, but certainly not before the end of the budget year. So half of that has been put into this budget. It's going to be a 2 to 3 year project once we get started. But what we've budgeted is half of that on the revenue because it is a reimbursable, and on the expenditure side. So other utility expenditures are for the, first of all, we took the Public Works Director, Utility Director, we moved that salary back into utilities. It was under Public Works, we put that back under utilities, where it was at for a while. I anticipate that with the Public Works having a foreman, that the new utility director is going to be spending most of his or her time in utilities. And certainly the manager have more active role with Public Works, but if we have a foreman or a supervisor there, that should work out pretty good. And of course, the 5% increase for full-time employees, that would be for the director and for one full-time technician. That's what we have currently. Health insurance increase, and we talked about the septic sewer project. When we do the septic sewer, we do have money identified that we can use for the water line in the same area. We did attempt to get the funding agency with septic sewer to qualify the water line. They would not. It's strictly a sewer project. And that's it. We talked about the valve project and the ground storage tank. So,
Excuse me.
yes, ma'am.
If and when you guys do the septic and sewer, I know a lot of people was complaining about their water pressure is very low.
Mhm.
Will that affect, once you start that project, is that gonna affect us on that street? Would our water pressure be as low as people behind us?
So right now, yes. So
That's
what,
terrible.
what we're doing right now in this current budget year is our engineers are doing a water master plan. So the idea is to identify where we can make improvements to the water plant and to the system at large that would hopefully increase the pressure and the amount that we have on hand. So right now, we can't do a whole lot. I mean, we can only store so much water, so the amount of storage space that we have, that's it.
Oh, okay.
So when it's being used, I mean, we have done some things with the Meritage project. We had them to, you know, it's for their benefit also, but it did benefit the town. Put a device on at the water plant that did increase the pressure a little bit.
A little bit. So we
So-
just have to deal with it until, and pray that we can take a bath.
No, you'll be able to take a bath unless there's a water main break, but we're trying to get more pressure.
Yeah, that's gonna be a problem.
And again, what drove the water master plan was the idea of having water capacity for the High Line when it's developed. So,
Wow. Got a lot of work to do
yeah, we do.
on the water.
Yeah,
'Cause people always ask me, and I don't even know how to answer. When I was out campaigning, they were like, my water pressure is so low. I said, I really don't know what to tell you. I'm not on the board, but when I get there, I'll ask. So that's why I was curious about, will the pressure be able to build up, and then you're adding more houses to a problem that you already have. And so that's not gonna make it any better.
So what's going to happen, and Councilman McConnell can verify this if I'm wrong, and I'm going to give a very much layman description of this. We can increase the pressure at the plant. We can do that. But if it's not being used, that's going to put pressure
On the
back on
tower.
the system. We're going to start blowing some holes
I
out
got
there.
you.
And we don't have the capacity
Okay.
currently. But hopefully this study, along with the 5 million from the state, will cure that.
Yeah, that's the plan.
That's a hard bill, that 5 million, but we'll pray on that one.
That's all that I have.
Okay. Writing questions or comments as it relates to the utility fund? Okay. Just one observation, on page 1, line 6 and 7. Right, and I tried to do a projection forward, just based upon what the actual amount collected has been thus far. So on line 6, we've actually taken in $209,419. So if you were to look at that, this is a 10-month collection or a 9? I would anticipate this is 9 since we're early July.
6 and 7, that is through, or 6 and 8, line 6 and 8,
Mm-hmm.
water and sewer.
6 and 7 and 8.
That is through June 15th or June 20th.
Okay, and we have 3 months to go, so if you look at what we're currently for line 6 at 2.5, so that would be $29,000. We can, just based upon what we're seeing now, that we can project forward for 3 months, which would give us 87,000. It's going to bring us to about 296. We budgeted for 344. Now we're going to be budgeting for 348 going
Correct.
forward. Are we budgeting properly just to kind of make sure that we're there?
So what we're thinking is going to happen is, well, we know the rest of Meritage is going to come online.
Okay.
So, and our little bit of the 1%, I expect that that 209 will be closer to the 345.
Okay, by fiscal year
And
end.
the 348, that's just the 1% increase.
Okay. Righty, that was the obvious thing that jumped out at me at this time. So any other questions or comments? Okay. Alrighty, any other questions or comments as it relates to the general fund? Okay. If not, just my last 10 seconds is simply this, and I say this, and you guys hear me say this every year. When we're adding additional expenses, and we know that there are some things that are just inherently increasing, life insurance, health insurance, dental, and all of those things just happen. We have no control over it. But in terms of those things that we do have control over, right now, we have an unfunded position right now in administration that we're looking to fund in this coming budget year. So I use 42,000 as a salary. I probably
35, 37, and.
Okay, okay. And then for the public works person, I just throw in 45, and, just for conversation purposes. And then, of course, when you add the benefits, it's about $35,000. So we're right at about 112, 120,000, a more additional expense that we're going to be adding to the budget by doing these things. In addition to that, we're going to add 45,000 for the purchase of the car, or the new vehicle, which we need. So I will just leave that aside. So the inherent question is always that if indeed everything is being raised, we're talking raises, purchases, staffing, increases in those items we can't control, it always gets back to the thing for me, is that do we have the revenue? Are we producing the revenue to pay for all of these things that are being asked without going into our savings and using contingency dollars to balance the budget, right? Because whenever I get to the contingency line, I always want to see zero.
Right.
Right, and if not, then maybe we need to tweak some things, okay?
So, the initial comments, when we were talking about revenue, so that top line in the general fund, that 2.8 million is going to be around 3 million. We have seen the increase in property values that indicate that a steady stream of permanent revenue is going to be there. So that's what I would do. And all the other revenue line items are very conservative. So that would be my best response to that in regard to the new positions. Like you said, the truck, things like that are just, you're always going to
One-time
have
cost.
stuff.
Oh, certainly. Because my goal is always at a very minimum, is that every year, we've actually put away 500,000 additional dollars in our savings. Right, so let's just say that if we had revenue now, new revenue of 1.5, let's take the $1 million and do well by our staff and purchase other things that we need, but let's not go into that 500,000. Simple explanation, if you will. Yeah. And if we did that, then we give 20% raises to staff. So go find the money, Ken.
You just got to deal.
Okay.
You said 20. You said 40. He
No, I
said
was
20.
asking. This gives you your
Yes.
sheet for
Okay,
next
it's all
week.
here.
It's going to be on the agenda. You're just ratifying. I just want to make sure that.
Go ahead, please.
And then your 95% looks like it's 3,193,193.
3 million.
193?
3,193,000 for the general fund.
And as the clerk reminded me today, we have to budget 95%.
That's at 95%.
Okay, all right, thanks. Any other questions for Ken or administration? Hearing none. Thank you so much, and thanks so
Great
much
workshop.
to Ken and staff for getting this information to us. If you have any questions, feel free to talk with Ken, and we'll go forward from there. Righty, so if there's no other questions or comments, motion for adjournment?
Sure.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Thank you so much. We'll see you next Tuesday for our regular council meeting.